Now, both NATO and Russia are warning each other to stay out of the Ukraine. So what is the significance or strategic importance of Ukraine to both of these military powerhouses?
I think it's important to note first that there is not really a two sides or two, both whataboutism into this. NATO cooperation with Ukraine is as a result of the government's invitation and deepening relations between different bilateral NATO nations, as well as an institution with Ukraine, while the Russian demands are precisely what they are. They are demands on a sovereign state that try to create their own on sphere of influence that would include Ukraine. For Russia, for both historical reasons and for political reasons, Ukraine was perceived as falling under the sphere of influence of Russia. But of course, after the Soviet Union, the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the rise of an independent Ukraine, Ukraine, like any other country, and the Ukrainians do have a right to chart their own way and would like to be part of the Euro-Atlantic structures. And that is where the struggle is. The Russians, Kremlin particularly, don't want to accept that basic fact.
And both sides here are a warning of consequences. How likely are both of these sides going to respect each other's warnings?
I think it is important to, again, note that what NATO is warning is about is for Russia not to violate Ukraine's sovereignty, as it did back in 2014 when it invaded Ukraine and illegally annexed Crimea, and continued to support puppet regimes in eastern Ukraine, which are under, for all practical purposes, under Russian occupation. So it's kind of rich for Vladimir Putin to claim that further increase in tensions are due to NATO or Ukrainian activities. But it is important. So in that sense, NATO support for Ukraine and Ukrainian sovereignty and independence is an important notion to make. I would point out that what seems to be happening right now is that Vladimir Putin and Kremlin seem to lost any hope of influencing Ukraine's future through domestic instability, through exerting pressure in places like Donbass. So might be considering a military intervention as a last resort to reassert what they feel as their sphere of influence.
All right, Dr. Devlen. Well, NATO is warning of consequences, and so is Russia. So what kind of consequences could they be referring to?
So basically, of course, the worry is that this would lead to a war in Europe. Now, I don't think we will be seeing a major full-scale European-wide war. There is always the particular danger. But what really sort of concerns NATO and Ukraine is a limited incursion by Russian forces, and invasion probably will be limited in scope. And of course, the Russian warnings are precisely that. If you don't give us what we want, we might invade. Basically, blackmailing both NATO and Ukraine to push for their own political purposes. So what they are warning about, the consequences are basically war in Europe.
All right, just about a minute left here, Doctor, but let's touch on the NATO foreign ministers meeting today in Latvia. They were there to discuss this very situation. So give us an overview of what has been discussed so far.
I mean, it started today. I think there will be multiple issues that needs to be talked out. One of them is Ukraine and increasing tensions in the border and the Russian buildup and the pre-positioning of troops and material that are concerning for Ukraine and for NATO. So how to react and how to support Ukraine through an arms sale, through political and diplomatic means is one of them. One thing is quite clear, that we will not see NATO troops in Ukraine. Ukraine is not a NATO member, and it's very unlikely that we will see Ukrainian NATO troops being positioned over there. Of course, there are other issues, including Belarus and Lukashenko's increasing gray zone aggression towards our allies in the Baltics, Latvia, Lithuania, as well as Poland. So that will be one of the issues.